resistant crops, drought-resistant animals that can withstand higher heat and longer and higher temperatures that currently exist. This is a scientific issue, and we are going to work with the research organizations to make sure that at least we mitigate part of what can be very severe natural disasters.
Thank you. Yes, Junet.
Chairman, I know the nominee was once a politician, but he has cleverly evaded the issue of the vaccine. And we know each other why he's doing that.
Mr. Chairman, it is indeed true that I was once a politician, but that is not, but I wasn't evading the question, because the matter is very simple to me. And in consultation with those in agriculture, we have also come to the same conclusion. I think the long and short of it is the following. Number one is that my understanding is that the whole vaccination process is to address two diseases. It is to address the PPR and foot and mouth disease. That's what the issue is about. Mr. Chairman, you know, talked about earlier about social media and what can be propaganda and otherwise. And I think the most important thing is to involve those involved in the industry, including the members of this House, is to involve those involved with the information that we have. And say, this is a vaccine. It is being made by Kevavapi, who are our own people. It is for this and this purpose. We only vaccinate about 10% of our livestock. We want to vaccinate more than that. But the point of the matter is this. The cow, as I said earlier, belongs to an individual. It doesn't belong to the government. The goat belongs to an individual, not to the government. So the matter is simple. Here is a vaccine. It is for foot and mouth disease. You have a goat. Do you want the goat to be vaccinated? You say, yes, I want to be vaccinated. We vaccinate. You say, no, I don't want my goat to be vaccinated. Sawa. Do you have a cow? Do you want the cow to be vaccinated? This is the reason why it is to be vaccinated. You say, yes, we vaccinate. You say, no, we don't vaccinate. Allah?
Thank you.
Yes,
Robert.
Point of order, Honorable Chairman, point of order.
Yes, Mishi.
I think, Chairman, on the same breath, because there is a lot of misconception and a lot of negative narrative, so we wanted to hear from the nominee, how is he going to address to the public and put some trust to the public regarding the vaccination? We wanted to hear on that perspective.
Thank you, Honorable Mishi. The communication aspect of it is huge. The communication aspect of this is very big. And I'm going to use the experts. I'm going to use the experts in Kevavapi. I'm going to use the experts who understand this very well to be actually the lead communicators, just like we did with COVID, where we had the doctors themselves explain the issue. We also want to use the veterinary officers to themselves explain what we are trying to do. So you can be sure, Honorable Member, that I am going to put a very robust communication system on this matter.
Robert Mbui,
yeah, thank
Baya, Murugara.
Speaker, maybe before we leave that issue of vaccines,
yes.
Because I remember CS Mutahi telling us, if I can get it, you can get it on COVID. And largely, the issue of vaccines, the problem has been misinformation and the people communicating. Because the ministry has left it to the political class to communicate, and probably, should he be approved, is the area around that communication that he will need to look into, so that the right people, as you say, communicate, but also communicate the right information to the cow owners. Because again, if we leave it to the members of the public to decide, since the cow is mine, and I base my decision on misinformation, I could decide not to vaccinate my cow to my detriment and the detriment of the country's productivity. Probably, since he has already answered that, but just for information, Honorable Speaker, that should he be approved, that's some of the challenges you find.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Hold
as I
there,
said,
you'll come to
sorry.
that. Robert?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The nominee says that he's very passionate to assist Kenyan farmers. Now, I have very quick concerns. One, there was this major scandal of fake fertilizer that made our Kenyan farmers lose very heavily. With your passion, will you consider initiating a process of compensating those farmers that lost, negatively, that were affected negatively by this scandal? There's also media reports, and this is what members here are talking about, indicating that despite there being no budgetary allocation, this issue of livestock vaccination is actually being propagated by multinationals that want to test vaccines on our animals. What is your comment on that? And finally, the government has been accused in the recent past of regulation of private business, especially agriculture. I mean, there's regulations on you have to get a license to grow, a license to harvest, a license to transport, a license to store, a license to sell. What is your comment on that? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Nominee, I would like to ask you the following question. One, just on the oil crops and the cost of edible oils in Kenya, there has been a over-reliance on the importation of edible oils. And yet this country, especially at the coast, has huge potential to actually bring down the cost of edible oils and actually grow our GDP. Crops like coconut, cashew nuts, ground nuts, and many other nuts that grow at the coast. But there has been little investment in this sector, especially there, and farmers there feel that they have lost their land, and production, and there's nothing they get out of the land because government has not invested in these crops. What will you do if approved as Cabinet Secretary to ensure the people at the coast do not continue to suffer loss of productivity? Secondly, what is your position on GMO crops in Kenya? What is your position on the genetically modified organism crops in this country? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Murugara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is on value addition to agricultural produce, and this involves crops and livestock production. The first one is that the reason why farmers are actually finding it difficult to get into agriculture is because they have to sell their crops raw without any value addition, as a result of which they are so cheap that it is expensive to grow them, it is cheap to sell those crops. Number two, also use of prohibited pesticides and chemicals to spray the crops. And when it comes to livestock, to actually vaccinate, as you have just explained, and to treat the diseases that affect our livestock. Some of the chemicals we use, pesticides, are banned in countries where we are supposed to be selling those crops. What are you likely to do so that you are able to cut the niche of the market out there as regards our agricultural crops and our livestock?
Ferdinand.
Nominee, I come from Tanzania, and I want to be very, very specific. First and foremost, distribution of the fertilizer. Farmers must be attracted to do their job, but distribution of fertilizers in the country is bad because it's put in one place and the farmers have to travel miles and miles to get whatever they want to go, so that the cost of agricultural production goes up. And so most of them are actually discouraged. Secondly, and I want to just correct you, you talked about the youths. I think you have to get the youth to get into extension services, because that is very, very important. And for you to get this youth, you must have a program to attract the youth so that we have these extension services so that the youth can be able to go there and do some work. And I think it's very important that we get that right. Lastly, if you don't mind, we had fake fertilizers, and the farmers, I don't know whether somebody asked that, but I don't think, yeah, somebody asked that. If we did, then of course, specifically, we have ADC land. And you rightly say the population of this country is going up. And yet ADC farms are lying idle. What are you going to do if you actually make you a minister for agriculture? Be specific on this one. Thank you.
Last on that round, Naisula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the issue on livestock farm, I just want to put it to Honorable Mutahi Kagwe that it's one thing to speak very flowery words about leather, about livestock, but when you look even at the budgetary allocation that is given to the State Department on livestock, it is very minimal. And being honest as a country in ensuring that we take livestock matters seriously, because if you look at even the funding, most of the time it is donor funded. And donor funded, you know, it is for a specific period and for specific interventions, but not the whole aspect of it. But my question to you is that the whole issue on research as a country, in the past we have been a very, a country that is known for its research, and mostly on our foods, on even the livestock, on agriculture. I'd like to know what you think about us as a country on the measures that we are putting in place and what we need to do to ensure that research goes back to where it was and gets the necessary funding, because that is important.
Nominee, you can answer those 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me start with the issue of the fake fertilizers that was raised, because it has been raised by quite a number of members. And to answer as follows. Number one is that obviously that was an extremely unfortunate thing to do. Mr. Chairman, there are 2 areas that I find almost reasonable. One of them is the area of seeds, fake seeds, and the other one is fake fertilizers. Because that issue actually affects not only food security, but actually national security. Because if you grow for a whole year, you are growing something and it was fake from the beginning, or you give your cows fake feeds and they die, Mr. Chairman, this is a matter that I would like even to work with this House to create more civility in terms of the penalties that are involved when people sell fake fertilizers, when people sell fake seeds. This is an area